But commercialism is about giving the public what they want. If they didn't want it, it wouldn't be profitable. So it must be what they want. Music, television, architecture, fashion, lifestyle. Same argument. The 80s have given us lots of choice, lots of competition, and the best has emerged triumphant. Well, that's the theory.
I think what's happened is that styles have become available in many and sanitized versions to people, which has taken them from their original hard-won roots and just made them things that you bought in shops. And in the same way that you can get 20 or more different styles of breakfast cereals, but at the end of the day, they're all a bit similar, and things that are plucked away from their roots that become just styles are a bit similar. And lots of those styles have been available. Styles of being entertained, styles of dressing yourself, styles of ways of thinking about the world, all those have become available. So there's been lots more choice, and funnily enough, some people have thought it feels like there's lots less choice. In the 80s, the whole world has aspired to become very bourgeois. I mean, it's what people call classic fashion in all sorts of ways has come back. And it's come back partly because people were bored with rebellious events, seen it, done it, and partly because in any case the prevailing mood, which was about money, dictated precisely that.
It's almost sort of young middle-age sort of dressing, if you know what I mean. Really, really unimaginative. Next, that sort of yuppie sort of power dressing, sort of, but accessible to the sort of masses. I mean, but there were so many of those sort of shops that just sort of appeared in the 80s, and all this sort of business sort of stuff like the tie rack and the sock shop and the body shop, and it's all sort of Margaret Thatcher produced, and the whole image that goes with it, it's a pile of crap.
In the early 80s, remember the sportswear time? You had labels all over you. You had your Nike trainers, your Sergio Tacchini tracksuit bottoms, your Fila t-shirt, your Alessi tracksuit top, your Lacoste armband, and people were just walking around with labels everywhere. Giorgio Armani glasses.
But it's the whole way you think. Everything you do, this you wear that, you have that, and what it all boils down to is power and how it's like asserting yourself. And once you have one thing, you have to have the other to go with it, and you have to have the other. But the finer facts, the emergence of the finer facts is
the CD player. You get your nice stereo, then you get your CD, then you get your huge collection of CDs, and then you get your TV, your video, and your Golf GTI.
Oh, and one other thing. You had to have a good-looking body, and that meant a lifestyle constructed around muesli, mineral water, and marathons.
I don't believe in all this keep fit jive. I mean, my idea of a marathon is 93 pints and a chicken curry. But I love watching them marathons on the telly, The ones I like best are the wobblies, the ones with the legs. This heart attack doing me a lot of good. The ones I like best are the ones who collapse 3 foot from the finishing line and they never get their little medal to keep for always. I mean, your life's got to be pretty empty, hasn't it, if you run 26 miles, 365 yards dressed as a Welsh dresser in pine.
The smart way to live in the 80s, when you analyse it, was based on fear. Fear of heart attacks and lung cancer, fear of catching AIDS, fear of being out of touch, out of style or out of pocket, fear of unemployment, fear of being on Beatles about. Here's Oliver James again as a psychologist this time.
We should also say that, of course, we saw during the 80s a lot of people going off the rails, taking drugs, having sex for bad reasons, unenjoyably, generally having a bloody awful time. And then the other side of the sort of 80s too much, too young, is that by a strange quirk, because everything's got so much more competitive, you've got a whole other section of the community who are being required to be conformist in a way that my generation never were in the 60s. And they're being required to get 3 A's in their A-levels, and they're being required to find out how to get good marks, and obviously they become very good at doing exams, and completely unimaginative people, and they are quite terrifying, these people. I mean, they are incredibly ambitious, and, it's like every conversation with them is like having a conversation with a businessman.
I am not a destroyer of companies. I am a liberator of them.
I would say it was epitomised by the famous "greed is good" Gordon Gekko in Wall Street, for example. That, for me, was the moment that summed it up.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
Acquisitiveness, selfishness, ruthlessness, pragmatism, opportunism, rejecting vulnerable people such as the old, such as women. In fact, women's rights have suffered badly during the 80s in many ways. The handicapped, the poor, all these groups have done jolly badly in the 80s. People like me, who went to major public school in Cambridge, male, quite aggressive, have done extraordinarily well.
People that are well off. Although people aren't actually that well off. They've got nice big houses, they've got BMW cars, but they've got the BMW car on finance. Their house is a 90% mortgage. They've got so many credit cards with £2,000 on each of them and stuff, and it's all really false money. So these people are enjoying their luxuries and their good time and their social standing and stuff, and they're thinking, yeah, we're really great. We're better than you, Mr. Jones. Oh, but I've just got a new BMW. You know, you've got all that sort of thing going on. Then you've got the people that are unemployed, and they want the same things as Mr. Jones next door or up the street or around the corner, and they can't get it. So there's been an increase in crime, things like that. It's all related, it's all tied into each other.
You can go down to the pub now and people are talking about mortgages and the price of houses and interest rates and credit. Is that any way to go on? I mean, haven't people got more interesting things to talk about?
When I talk to someone and they say, where are you from? And I say, Kent, they say, all the yuppies there, you know, people all down there drive Porsches, they all work in the Docklands, they all earn $100,000 a year. I mean, I know one person like that, and he's a bit of a dickhead, really. You know, and he automatically assumes that we can all afford to do the things that he can.
I think it says a lot about the 80s, where you're encouraged to aspire to yuppiedom. And there are people in council houses who are being encouraged to buy their council houses.
And a lot of people can't even get council houses.
And now they're whacking the rates up, and 4,000 council houses are being repossessed a week because people just cannot afford now to maintain their mortgage repayments, and they can't get rehoused after that.
Perhaps this is starting to sound a little bit political, but then you can't really talk about the 80s and not mention, you know, her, the woman, Mrs. Thatcher. So, for a detached, calm, objective view, we went to Peter Hennessy, academic, journalist and broadcaster, currently writing a history of post-war Britain.
If in 1973 I had said to you that the one person in Mr. Heath's cabinet who's going to prevail is the Secretary of State for Education and Science, Margaret Thatcher, that within 2 years she'd be leader of the Conservative Party, within 6 years he'd be Prime Minister, and she would remain Prime Minister throughout the 1980s, you would have said to me, Peter, you are cracked. And you would have been right.
But she didn't achieve power through a military coup. She was voted into office 3 times running.
I think she's won 3 elections because the opposition has been committing slow suicide on the television and the radio since October 78. It stopped, but it did it for a decade. It did it from the moment the Callaghan government's incomes policy fell apart when the Ford workers busted in October 78 to round about 1988. And both our constitutional health and the balanced functioning of our political system depends on there being a strong and up and running opposition all the time. And we haven't had one for 10 years. We've got one again now, but we didn't have one for 10 years.